It's my great pleasure to see you here today in a combination of people from caring about education, all of us, but people working in education and people working in the industry. I think it's important to come together. A couple of months ago, we in MyMachine were fortunate that we were honored by a global organization called Reimagine Education. And Reimagine Education is a very similar setting to this one, where people from education, experts from education from, for example, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, London School of Economics, were together with people from the industry, companies like Google, QS, Amazon, were all there. And they handed over the Presence Learning Gold Winner 2018 award to MyMachine. It's a mouthful, I know, but we are still very proud about that. And the reason I'm saying it is because, that was in December, because the day after we got a phone call from Hank Norris. Hank Norris is Vice President Learning at the New York Academy of Sciences. And Hank said, I'm very sorry I couldn't be in Philadelphia yesterday, but it comes to my mind now, something that I should have done a lot earlier, and I will do it now. And he said, I want to introduce you to the leading voice of education in the United States, Mr. Tom Vander Ark. And so here we are a couple of months later. We are very, very, very happy to have Tom with us. Tom is now CEO of a company called Getting Smart, which is funded by Karen, who is also joined us today. So Karen, we're very happy that you're here with us as well. Tom is somebody who is really aiming for innovation in the learning process, in the learning of people, and making sure that the learning methodologies are becoming better worldwide. And he writes lots of books about that. He's also writing lots of articles, contributing, for example, to Education Week or Forbes. Tom also founded the first venture capital company to invest in new ideas for education in the United States, Learn Capital. And previous to that, Tom was the very first executive director education at the biggest foundation worldwide, which is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we all know, of course, Bill Gates as co-founder of a company called Microsoft. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Tom Vander Ark.
With Dutch and Flemish background, it feels like I'm at a big reunion. So it's really a pleasure for me to be here. About 80 years ago, when Europe looked like it was falling back into war, the Irish poet Lewis MacNeice said, "Each of us has known mutations of the mind when the world jumped and what had been a plant dissolved and rivers gushed from what had seemed a pool. For every static world that you or I impose on the real one must crack at times, and new patterns from new disorders open like a rose." In many ways, but for very different reasons, it feels just like that to me, where the world is changing very, very quickly, and everything that we thought we understood about the world is changing quickly. And the mental models, the way we construct our own personal understanding of the world seems to crack at times, and we have to construct a new way to understand what's happening. With Lewis MacNeice as a background, I want to tell you about a study that I've conducted for the last 3 years. I did a foundation-sponsored deep dive into the future of work, particularly the implications of artificial intelligence. And I want to start and end with my conclusions from that study. And that is that artificial intelligence, or code that learns, is a profound force moving worldwide, and that it will have a bigger impact on the lives and the livelihood of young people in our schools today than any other factor. I don't know if that's true, but I feel quite convicted that we are into something very new. I've worked for 40 years, and that career was the information revolution, a period of great change when every industry incorporated computers and data into how we did business. And I think starting about a year ago, we moved into a new age, an age to be shaped by artificial intelligence. We don't even know what to call that age yet. I think of it as the innovation economy. But I believe this is a very new period of time. And I'd like to share with you 3 thoughts. A quick summary of what's happening, a few of the implications, and then a few closing thoughts on how we prepare ourselves and young people. First of all, the very first thing that I did a year and a half ago when studying AI was I set Google alerts, one for artificial intelligence and one for machine learning. And I was shocked that in less than a week, 5 days, I was able to identify over 100 current uses of artificial intelligence. These are not proposed. These are current applications in every facet of life, from health to agriculture to education, obviously in advanced manufacturing, but also in the platforms that we live and work with. They're behind every screen. Every screen that we pick up is curated by artificial intelligence. So it's all around us all day long. And we're all largely unaware of how ubiquitous it's become so quickly. The picture here is my diagram of what's happening to the world right now. So the subset of artificial intelligence that's a driving force is really neural networks, what Google calls deep learning. And the intersection of deep learning with enabling technologies like robotics, combined with big data driven by the ubiquitous devices, the fact that the majority of the 7 billion people on the planet are now connected to the internet. And now there are billions of cameras connected to the internet and billions of sensors connected to the internet. The fact that the airplane that we flew over on has hundreds of sensors on it and created a terabyte of data is really something new and astounding. So when you combine artificial intelligence with things like robotics and big data, it's changing almost every sector. The dotted line is for blockchain, distributed ledger technologies. I think we're only beginning to understand how that's going to impact. The paradoxical thing from a technology standpoint is that artificial intelligence is a centralizing force. Algorithms that are applied very broadly. Blockchain and distributed ledger technologies are really a decentralizing force. And so at the intersection of AI and blockchain, we're going to see a lot of interesting applications. Take education, for example. In the United States, most young people benefit from several doses of adaptive learning every week. It's most frequent in middle grade mathematics. So they're using artificial intelligence to learn math. What's going to happen very soon is that the results from those learning sessions will go into a distributed ledger transcript. And student information is going to come from teacher scoring tests, from adaptive learning systems, from online tutors, and all of those inputs are going to be stored in a distributed ledger technology. So this is an example of AI and blockchain transforming a learning process. And it's going to happen industry by industry. We all, to some extent, have been augmented. This is a picture of an Alexa device that goes off in our home with some frequency, sometimes with no warning. But every profession is now augmented. Lawyers and doctors, I just visited a Magna plant. Magna is the largest parts manufacturer in America. There were 700 people and 700 FANUC robots. So the new paradigm is people or teams and smart machines. We all live, learn, work, and play on platforms. Platforms have risen in the last 10 years because they have really distinct advantages. They scale super efficiently, and they bring the outside in. They invite people to co-create their experience on a platform. If you want to learn more, there's a great new book called Platform Revolution by Sangeet Chowdhury. AI and platforms has led to a new set of tech rules that are rewriting industries. This is a list of them. If you want to know more about that, Kevin Kelly, the editor of Wired, has a great book called The Inevitables, where he describes each of these new tech factors. The World Economic Forum calls what's happening the fourth industrial revolution, and they've put out what I think are the most useful set of materials. So if you're a corporate executive and you want your management team to learn about this, or if you're a teacher leader and you want your faculty to learn about what's happening, the World Economic Forum Shaping the Fourth Industrial Revolution is really a great set of resources. There's also a new book by Klaus Schwab that really describes this new period of time that we're in. Let's look quickly at 8 implications for each of us in terms of what this new age means. The first is that we have a hard time thinking about what's happening. So that phone only came out 10 years ago, and we presume that the next 10 years are going to be much like the last 10 years. We extrapolate in a linear fashion. The problem is we're living on this exponential curve of Moore's Law. And even though people predict that Moore's Law might slow down, I think between AI and blockchain and quantum computing, we're very, very likely to stay on that curve as long as we can see. And so we have to get better at training ourselves to thinking about living on a curve and understanding that things are coming at us much, much more quickly than they ever did. Second implication is that almost every profession has become smarter than the individual. Atul Gawande wrote about this in his book, Being Mortal. Atul, by the way, last week was appointed the CEO of a new health company started by Amazon, Berkshire, and JP Morgan. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this physician does to transform healthcare, at least healthcare in America, which is really screwed up. But Atul is a very thoughtful guy, and he says, as a surgeon, I always thought of myself as the smartest guy in the room. But now, in almost every setting, I have to respect the expertise of a diverse team to be able to deliver a complicated solution. And that's happening in law, it's happening in accounting, it's happening in engineering. So we work in complex teams, but paradoxically, we often do it as freelancers. So we're working in teams, but very soon half of us will do so as freelancers. That's already true of recent graduates. So you have this paradox of working in diverse teams, but often being self-employed. That adds a lot of flexibility for individuals, but it also means a lot less protection and less certainty. So it's a different way of being. Every field is becoming computational. We have a little 15-year-old goddaughter, Isabella, who told me recently she wanted to be a biologist. And I said, well, that means you're going to be a data scientist, because you can't be a biologist without being a data scientist. Every field is now characterized by a big set of problems accompanied by big data sets. So we need to help young people understand, find the things that they're interested in, and then start thinking about the data sets that are associated with those big problems. This is a picture of Houston. It was 2 weeks in a row we had storms that were supposed to be 500-year storms. And we started to think, if these storms happen every other week, there's something wrong with our prediction model. So part of what's happening with globalization, automation, and urbanization, now that most of the 7 billion of us live in cities, is that we have this collision, this strange collision between man-made systems that are extraordinarily complex, colliding with each other and with the natural systems in ways that we really don't understand, that we can't predict very well. And given all of these things, we have a level of novelty and complexity that's really unprecedented. I think Karen and I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and I suspect she's going to face 10 times the level of change that I have in my life. And remember, I had a 40-year career during the information revolution, really an earth-changing period of time. And her 40-year career could see 5 or 10 times the level of change that I face. So let's think about what that means. AI is a good news, bad news story when it comes to jobs. This is a hotly contested issue, but it seems clear from my research that we will see a massive job dislocation, and it's starting to occur in some places. In many places, it'll be 10 years out before it really hollows out the middle of the current job market. Part of what makes it difficult to predict is that this is going to happen at different rates by sector and by geography. So I think we all need to begin contemplating a significant amount of job dislocation. The good news is that it's very, very likely that there's going to be a lot of job creation. A few people, very few, but a few think it will be even more than are dislocated. I think that will depend on how well regions sort of skill up to meet the new opportunity set. But my main point here is that we've never lived in a period of better opportunity. It's never been easier for young people to code an app, to start a business, to launch a campaign, to be part of a team that picks a local problem, wrangles a data set, applies open machine learning tools, and makes an extraordinary contribution. High school and college students are now doing this around the world. There's a new organization in Oakland called AI for All, and they're connecting the top computer scientists in the world to urban girls and asking the girls what problem they're really interested in. They're helping the girls both collect data and find data from partners, combine them, and apply open tools to solve big problems. That is an extraordinary opportunity. It didn't exist 24 or 36 months ago. I hope we can create schools that are alive with that sense of extraordinary possibility that exists. The challenge is that as adults, we have to admit that we don't know, that we don't understand even the nature of the problems, much less the solutions that we face. So we, with our young people, need to walk into complexity with humility and learn alongside them. I do worry about the waves of complex issues that are coming at our communities. I'm particularly worried about being an American in this period of time because I think we're particularly poorly suited to have conversations that are very difficult about how our ethics are being challenged, how our economics are being challenged. But all of us, every municipality, every region, every country needs stronger civic infrastructure to handle the waves of issues that are coming at us. Simple little things like bikes and electronic scooters, and right behind that, automated vehicles. You think about the waves of complicated technical and ethical and economic issues, it's going to require a different set of civic infrastructure. So yes, STEM education is enormously important, but we also need young people that are studying public policy and helping us build a new infrastructure that will help build a new economy and cities and states, countries that work for everybody. Let me conclude with a few thoughts on how we get ready for this brave new world. First of all, we need to teach kids attack skills. We need to teach them how to walk into novelty and complexity. And it's for this reason that I'm a big fan of MyMachine, because MyMachine is design thinking. It invites young people to think about what might be possible. I have a picture here of one of our favorite schools. This is in Boise, Idaho. It was a 10-year after-school program that has just launched a high school that's going into its third year. They have a structured design thinking approach. It's based on the approach from the design school at Stanford. My favorite part about it is ideate right in the middle. You see where it says 51? 51 means it might take 51 attempts to solve the problem. So this idea of iterating a solution is not only part of their structured methodology, but it's part of their culture. And so when they sit down with a tough problem, they say, let's 51 it. So I love that sense of iterative problem solving that's baked into the entire curriculum. It's not just something that happens after school. It's how they think about everything that they do. Secondly, we need to teach entrepreneurship. This is a picture of the after-school program at One Stone. Students run a marketing company that provides marketing services to Boise area businesses and nonprofits. It's fee-based work that comes back to the nonprofit to benefit their work. Every young person needs the opportunity to learn how to earn, because we're all entrepreneurs from here on out. And that's true whether you're in the freelance economy or whether you're working at a small or medium-sized company. Even big companies need young people that spot opportunity, that take initiative, that learn how to deliver value for customers. It's more and more important to learn how to collaborate, to work with other people. We live in a complicated and diverse world, and we're working on teams that are highly differentiated, and they're often people that work with us in the same place, but they're increasingly people that work across the globe. So we all need to be better at being self-aware, at being socially aware, and being able to construct relationships that are productive. This is another thing that I think MyMachine does really, really well. You actually do all three of the things that I just said are the most important. You encourage design thinking, you encourage collaborative problem solving, and you teach entrepreneurship. Let me finish with 5 quick conclusions. So first of all, we have to teach these attack skills. We have to teach design thinking, we have to teach collaboration, we have to teach initiative. And I think that can start from elementary school on up. Number 2, I'm a big advocate of project-based learning. I love schools that have that teach everything through project-based learning, but at a minimum, a couple times a year, students need the chance to work on a really big, preferably community-connected challenge, sometimes individually, sometimes as a team, but they need to take on big, complicated challenges and stumble and struggle in a multi-step process. Just to get at these priority outcomes of design and collaboration and initiative, I think we need big, extended challenges. I have a picture of Design Tech High that we visited a few weeks ago, a great example where a school where they teach prototyping in 9th grade, and then by the time they're seniors in this class, they spend the year doing a big project that starts with design, with ideating, moves into prototyping, and then it moves all the way to enterprise. How do we turn this into a business or an initiative? Number 3, now that the majority of people on the planet are connected to the internet. It's less about the digital divide, and it's more about the guidance divide. Young people that have adults at home and at school that walk alongside them, that care about who they're becoming and what their superpowers are and what cause they care most about. So what we're struggling with in America is thinking hard about how to create universal access to really good guidance, career guidance, college guidance. Number 4, we shouldn't assume that individual teachers or even individual schools figure this out. There's great opportunity in personalized and project-based learning, but it's really complicated. It's fundamental changes to the way we've organized schools for 150 years. So we have a book that comes out in a couple of weeks called Better Together, and it suggests that schools should work together in informal networks or in formal networks. There's many different ways, but let's not assume that individual teachers and schools can do this on their own. And number 5, it's time for a community conversation. Every community needs the chance to have the conversation that we're having today. What's happening in the world? What does it mean for us and our kids? How do we get ready for it? This is a good news, bad news problem because there doesn't seem to be a shortcut to having that conversation. With my new friends at Agoria this morning, we talked about how you can't just have a few wise elders that understand what's happening and then ask the government to impose a new system. It doesn't work that way anymore. So we need thoughtful top-down leadership, but we need to listen to kids. We need to encourage teachers. So we need bottom-up leadership. We also need community connection. So we need inside-out leadership. This is a period where we all have to get together and have a conversation about what's happening and get better at facilitating agreements that keep our communities moving forward. I want to close with a German poet. I hope this isn't a little Teutonic for you, but as a very young man, Rainier Maria Rilke offered this prayer. And I think of it as the MyMachine prayer. He said, I believe in all that has never yet been spoken. I want to free what waits within me so that what no one has dared wish for will spring forth without my contriving. It's with that sense of optimism, even arrogance. He goes on in this poem to apologize to God for being quite so arrogant. But it's with that confidence and that authenticity and openness, I hope we can walk into the future. I hope we can help our kids walk into the future. It's with a head full of dreams and with hands busy at making contribution that we can walk into the future together. Thanks.